Hi, Mama. Thank you so much for tuning into part one. I love sharing that time with you. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to give a huge shout out to our amazing sponsor, OneThread, creators of beautifully designed wall organizers that help busy families stay on track and inspired every day. And because you're here, I have a little surprise. Use code SAMI10 at checkout and get free markers with any purchase. Yep, that's right, free. So you can plan, create, and thrive in style. All right, let's jump right in to part two. You're going to love what's coming next. All right, so I'm going to roll back a little bit. And so I know you're talking about technology a lot and restrictions at home. Talk to me a little bit about technology and education. I know this was a conversation you and I had prior to taping, but, I think we both kind of feel that there's such an emphasis of technology now in education. And talk to me a little bit about how schools are using digital tools, like what you're seeing now, considering you had kids 22 years ago, and then now you have, your children that are still in elementary school and middle school. So talk to me a little bit about how schools are using technology and digital tools, especially for these younger generations, and what you're kind of seeing in that regard.
So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, I personally think it's too much. We're relying too heavily on technology for kids in the classroom. While technology is a beautiful thing, I think there's a fine line between, it doing great things for education and then it being a little overkill. And so my experience with my kids, my two older kids, they were in, I believe, second and fourth grade when the school sent home a note that said, hey, we are going to be School of Innovation. We are going to have technology in the classroom. So if you can afford it and if you want, buy your kids a mini iPad that they can use in conjunction with their education. And so my husband and I were like, oh, this is kind of cool. I wonder what this will be like. Let's explore this. So we bought the kids iPads and our lives completely changed. And I'm not going to say for the better or for the worse, but I definitely view technology in a totally different way now. And I can tell you that kind of shift of in the classroom, two distinct things that I've seen from, kid group 1 and kid group 2 that I have is we now are testing primarily on devices where that did not happen with my older children. They pen and pencil, paper, old school methods of testing. Now the younger two, they're on devices for everything. I think it's messing with cognitive development. I think it's messing with hand-eye coordination. I think it's messing with their ability to learn how to spell, because there's so much science between writing and your brain, the connection with memory. They're not getting that as much as my older two children did. Now, level-wise, they're all extremely smart kids. We don't have any issues there, but I can just tell you from what I've seen, and I also have substituted in the classroom a lot, specifically in the autism units that we have. And I really think the emphasis on technology in the classroom is detrimental to the kids in the long term. My younger two children, the second big thing is they are not being taught cursive. I taught my 12-year-old cursive, and I approached him with it as like, this is kind of like a secret language no one's going to learn anymore. So I'm going to teach it to you because I want you to know it. The Declaration of Independence written in cursive. You need to know what this says. And so I think it was the summer he was going into third grade. We bought those marker pads that you can erase, expo markers, and we just practiced cursive. And he started with just writing his name over and over again. And then eventually can it's not perfect, but, and I'm not a teacher, but, he tied it together and he can, write cursive now. And I'm doing the same thing with my soon to be third grader, my youngest. They need to learn that, where my older two learned it in school. They learned how to write cursive in school. And I think it's so crazy because I'm a mom with 4 kids and there's only an 8-year age gap between number 2 and number 3. And in that time, we've eliminated cursive from school and we've gone primarily to iPads or computers for testing. Make it make sense. I know there's some efficiency data that kind of plays along with that, but at the same time, there's way more science on hand-eye coordination, memory skills. Uh, I just, the long and short is I don't think it's in the best interest of the kids. But who am I? I can't do anything about it other than fall in line and conform. But I am teaching cursive at home. We have very strict, device limitations. Like my 12-year-old doesn't have access to the free world like his friends do, and that's okay. That's a personal choice that you've made and that I've made. And as long as you respect me and I respect you, it's all good. But as the kids get older, that kind of affects what friendships look like because my son is not allowed to just spend the night at anyone's house. My son is not allowed to just hang out with anyone because I need to know what kind of accessibility to the free world he's exposed to. I want to control what he is hearing and learning, and not in this crazy keep them in a bubble way, but in a way of like, he's only 12. There's no reason for a 12-year-old to look like a 16-year-old and have access to things 17-year-olds do or listen to music. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, keep them kids a little longer. We already live in such a high pressure, high society world. Like, we need to protect their innocence a little bit longer. And so in school, the fact that there's device days where you have to go pick up your device and your cord and make sure everything works, and they do homework and submit assignments and projects, it really is mind-blowing to me. We're lucky that our neighborhood schools still believe in, hands-on play learning, things like that. So our kids are very lucky that they still get some of that. They still make actual, physical projects and bring, and there's things like that still happening. But I do think the emphasis, especially on testing, is out of control.
No, I understand that wholeheartedly. Especially I have one that's still in, preschool and like a real Reggio Emilio type of environment where they really learn through play. And I have another that's in the public school system down here. He's in kindergarten. Well, now he's going to be going into first grade. And I definitely see exactly what you're talking about. For him, he's doing so much on the iPad and they emphasize the I ready and the this and the that. And it's just like, there's so much. And there comes a time when you're like, is it too much? Like, is it too much technology? And I feel like you really did raise kids in two very different times. And so like, for you, I know a lot of the technology approach is very different. Like there was more flexibility when they were younger than now because we know so much more, right?
Absolutely.
How do you see like that contrast in your parenting approach versus, when you started 22 years ago, right? Like I'm sure, I see it between my two kids. I also boy, girl, so different children for sure. Which is so funny to say out loud, but really seismic switch in those two.
Right.
But talk to me a little bit about the differences that you see. I'm sure like you can you have like a hindsight is 2020 type of thing going on because you were a parent then as a young mom and now a little bit more seasoned. So talk to me about those differences.
Yeah, the technology thing, because it wasn't as prevalent in my life when I was a mom to the younger kids, I feel like now my business is run through my laptop. If something happens to my laptop, my life is over. So I would have never said that 10 years ago, I would have never said that. So um, it's not really, I'm not really happy about it, say, but it's like a necessary evil. We can't escape the fact that technology is so prevalent in our world. We're not going to change that. Now add in AI and we're talking about a whole nother beast of what the future could look like. And, with my younger two kids, my job at the time, I was the director of marketing for Panera for our corporate office locally. And so my job, it was a lot of face-to-face events, media, in the cafes, um, meetings with clients. There was so much face to face. And then, now with my business, there's a lot of digital. My website is, my primary source of my business. And then secondary to that is the other digital elements like our newsletter, our social media, our podcast. And then you add in like the in-person events. And so I make it a point that I'm out in the community. I am at events. I am networking. I do a lot of face to face because my core of my business is run digitally. And it's draining. Like I'm always on the computer, where when my older two were younger, I wasn't always on the computer. It wasn't like that. So it it's challenging because my younger two will be like, I'm always like, get off the device. It's time to do something else. Like I try to regiment how much they're on it. So I'm way more flexible than during the school year. But my 8-year-old will be like, well, you're on your device. I'm like, my device makes money, so yours doesn't, and I'm an adult, so I don't care what you're saying right now. And that's the crazy thing is my device is my income. So without it, I wouldn't have a business. And so it's like a night and day switch of how I operate now, because the whole idea of balance in your life, family, work, it's not really a real thing. Balance, there is no balancing this, because you're either all in or you're not. And you have to find ways to integrate the two together. And so my schedule is, I live and die by my calendar, but my schedule is fluid around anything pertaining to the kids, drop off and pick up. I do drop off and I do pick up every single day. That's like my sacred time with them, my quiet 7 to 10 minutes of just me and one of them. So I try to always drop off and pick up. There's like 2 days a month that I can't because of prior commitments, with volunteering or board meetings that I have that I, have to make arrangements. But, I try to navigate working on my computer around schedules so that they can seamlessly integrate together. And I have that flexibility and the autonomy as the owner to do what I want. I want to be on my device when they're at practice. I want to spend the 1 or 2 hours when they get home from school asking about their day, watching a movie, eating a snack, like just together present. And there are times where they don't have practice or something. So I'll jump on, I'll finish things I need to do, but then I have a wrap it up time. You know what I mean? So my older kids, it wasn't like that. It was like I picked them up from school. There was no devices. It was hang out, go to sports, make dinner, maybe watch a movie, and then go to bed. There was never this, hey, mom, can I watch a movie on my iPad? Or hey, mom, can I play my game? None of that. It just didn't exist. So I think we're all, even parents that only have their first set of kids during all this, we're all kind of growing up with this together. And even though I've already had 2 kids, we're still growing up doing this together. And I read something the other day that said our kids really need to give us some grace because this is our first time living too. And that really was this like
Aha moment.
aha moment for me. I was like, yes, like they expect that I know everything, that I, like I'm doing this for the first time too. And I don't have a clue what I'm doing. We are building the parachute on everything in life all day, every day. While I'm very much a type A player, I'm also very much a whatever, we'll just see what happens. So it's been interesting, especially with the 2 sets of kids, because my older two will make comments like, you're way more chill now, mom. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I am, because one, I'm in this 40s, I don't care mentality sometimes, but also just like, everything doesn't have to upset me. Everything doesn't have to be so deep, I guess. But at the same time, there's those moments where I feel like I'm complete opposite of that. I think it ebbs and flows with our cycles too as women. So there's something to be said about that too. But it is interesting how the older ones will make comments about like when they were younger versus their younger siblings. So it's a
I love
weird, it's a
I
weird
love
dynamic.
it. Literally, it really is. And it's so interesting. I mean, you know, looking back, are there things that you would have changed with the olders that you're now changing with the youngers? Like, I feel like you have such a unique perspective. I really need you to write a book because I feel like, do any of us all have it figured out? Of course not. But I just feel like you have such a different mindset on everything because you have the first 2 pancakes that you made, and now you have your second 2 set of pancakes, and you're like tweaking the recipes a little bit here to make it work in the world that we're in now. But I think also like in the person that you've become professionally and for as a mom and as yourself. So there are kind of 2 different errands, right? Like at the beginning, like, and I think that that could happen whether you have the age gap or not. Like, I'm very different with my second than I was with my first. Like, I was so worried about everything with the first. And I think that also comes with the postpartum hormones and all of that and
Mhm.
momminess and the pressure of getting everything right. But quite frankly, I swear it started in the hospital room with my son after he was born and I wasn't able to breastfeed. And then it just tumbled from there, but neither here nor there. But I think that, like, we have these societal pressures and then we have the pressures we put on ourselves. And I feel like you have grown so much from the first set of kids to the second set. So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, I just feel like really, I need the world according to Eryn because I feel like even your kids notice that, you're so much calmer. And I feel like even the 2 years in between my kids, I mean, I went through a lot of personal loss and everything else. And so I think grief definitely changed me. But talk to me a little bit about what that looked like for you.
Well, with the younger two, I definitely, like I said earlier, I was definitely still growing up with them. And, my mom used to call me, my parents used to call me mother hen when I was a kid because I was so overprotective of my siblings. One is a 5-year age gap, the other's a 9-year age gap. So I'm also a firstborn. And I think that there's that inherent, you know, mama bear, I want to protect everybody type deal going on and super bossy. Add in the fact that I'm an Enneagram 8 and a Leo, and we have a mess over here. And so with my younger two, I went through a huge personal loss when they were 1 and 3. I went through a divorce from their father. It was awful. It was a life altering experience. And being so young, not really knowing how to navigate any of that and still trying to kind of find my way of like who I am, what do I want to be when I grow up? What do I want to do with my life? Um, I don't think that I ever fully went through everything I needed to do emotionally and mentally to fix myself. It was very much, all right, put your big girl panties on. You got two people to keep alive. We don't have time for this crap, And going through this tumultuous process over several years, I really kind of lost who I was, but at the same time found this deep inner strength and this like warrior. And that's good and bad. The good is you give me any mountain, I will climb it. I will bitch and complain, excuse me, sorry, the entire time, but I will climb the mountain. Now, on the way down, there will be some tears, some regrets, some I wish I could have, would have, whatever. But with my younger kids, I never like stopped and actually like dealt with it. So now with the older kids, excuse me, with the older kids, I never stopped and dealt with it. With the younger kids, I'm making it a point of like stopping and dealing with things and learning how to kind of navigate the emotional side of being a mom. Because with the older two, when I was a single parent, you don't really have a lot of time to kind of sit and be and like absorb what's going on. I had a very rigid schedule. This is when I became one of those psychopaths about their schedule. And I live and die by my calendar. But back then it was like to the minute, everything had to go according to plan. We could not falter because life revolved around work and making sure that that money came in to pay the mortgage and you guys were fed and you had everything that you needed. And it was kind of this very rigorous life. Then my ex-husband blew up my world in 2013, I think it was. I was already remarried, hadn't my third child at that point, but our issues spanned so many years. When my life blew up again, then it was really like, wow, we need to stop, reassess. There was, I said this to my daughter, she's 22, the other day. I feel like every year in my life, there's these explosions, and it's God slowing me down and saying, you need to deal with all of this. You need to stop. You need to think. You need to breathe. You need to focus on what's important. And so, definitely with the younger two versus the older two, there's a lot more reflection, a lot more dedicated to my mental health. There's a lot more, um, a little more loose expectations, I guess you would say, but also as I've gotten older, like I don't know how to explain it really into words, but when you when you lose grandparents and you realize like your parents are getting older, there's I feel like there was like a defining moment where I was like, oh my gosh, like I really am an adult. Like I am responsible for people. Mind you, I'd already been doing this for years, but it was just like a like, whoa, this is real life. And you you realize like your purpose in life and the meaning of life. And while I don't really truly think I know what it is, I feel like everything just there was a moment of expansion where it was like, wow, I need to enjoy every minute of this because it really is a blink. And the reason why that is such a prevalent thing in my life is because when my daughter was 6 days old and I came home from the hospital with her, this day will live in infamy in my mind because it feels like it happened yesterday. I will never forget it. I was in the hospital because I got food poisoning after delivering a horrible birth. And so I had to stay in the hospital. And when I got home, I remember holding her and just saying to my mom, I can't believe she's already going to be a week old. And then she's going to be a month. And then I start bawling. And then she's going to be 3 months, 6 months, a year. And then what's going to happen? I have to take her to school. And here we are. She's 22 now. So it really is a book. And if you're not trying to be present, which I am making it so much more of an effort now with the younger two, it really does go by way too fast. And so the older two have noticed that and they've made those comments. And while I still have my moments of, insanity where I'm like, you guys are driving me crazy. I don't want to deal with you right now. It's definitely a different perspective with the younger and the older. And that was a really long answer. I'm sorry.
No, it was amazing because I think you like also like processed it and like you've had so much time to like think it through and everything else. But, I think that also I'm kind of wondering if it also like back when your oldest were little, like I wonder if there was also the stigma of mental health that was not talked about. And I think that we're living in a time where most of us recognize that we had mental health issues either growing up or currently have mental health issues, and we see it in our children and everything else. And I feel like we're living through a time that because we had that year in lockdown, I kind of think we were able to have a year where we literally didn't have anyone to talk to besides the people that were in our little
Huh?
odd houses or lives. And I think it kind of gave us that moment to reassess and breathe and check in and see what's going on. And, for me, I was a brand new mom. My son was born in 2019 and in July, and then in March, the world shut down. And, I, I think that I became so consumed with schedules and everything else that when my daughter was born in 21, it was so different because the world was more open. I mean, yes, like nobody was allowed in her hospital room besides me and my husband, which was a blessing and a curse. Because then I really begged, borrowed, and pleaded with the nurses to please take my daughter tonight. Please, I need to sleep. Like I literally just had a C-section. She was a giant baby at 9 pounds, 13 ounces. She constantly needs food. I'm like, can you please just take her? Please, I just want to sleep. But but I feel like, that mental health stigma, I feel like even in not that there is that big, like that's 8 years, but I feel like so much changed in that 8 years between your second and your third that do you feel like there was a little bit of that also, like when you like that it was okay to not be okay?
Yeah, I think that we are living parallel worlds to back then because it is totally acceptable now to talk about mental health, to talk about the fact that you're in therapy, to be open and vocal about it. And I have always been someone that has said, everyone needs therapy. I've been in and out of therapy since I was probably like 12-ish, I think. Um, it is something that we all need just to learn emotional intelligence and coping skills. And I wish when I was 12, 13, 17, 20, that I took it more seriously because my life would have panned out very differently. Not saying that I want to change my life, but on the emotional intelligence side and the coping side, I wouldn't have been such an awful wild teenager. I would have made better decisions. I wouldn't have got married at 20 years old and had a baby. I would have realized that's probably not a great idea. There would have been different things in my life. I think we all could benefit from, especially emotional intelligence, learning how to navigate hard situations, learning how to express our feelings. And back then, when I had my older two kids, it really wasn't talked about. It there was that stigma about mental health. It definitely was what it is now. I love the fact that now, like, we're talking about this on a podcast. People talk about it on their socials. I have articles on my website all over it. It is extremely important to talk about because we are only human, all of us. We all have emotions. And I don't think the ugliness of the world would be what it is if emotional intelligence was taught, if coping skills were taught, if people knew how to identify their feelings and how to talk about their feelings and talk about, things that are triggering to them. Like it's not ugly and bad. And so I am grateful that now it is not this negative taboo thing anymore. But it would have been really different if when my older two were younger that we were in, this place. I always, like I said, I've been in and out of therapy. When I was going through that ugly divorce, Barnes and Noble was like my quiet therapist. I would go and sit in an aisle and just read and read and read. And I have a actual library in my house of books that I've amassed over the years that I feel like are rereads, and like I'm going to make my kids read, like lots of self-help, lots of business primarily. But the point is, I would go out of my way to self-help at Barnes and Noble, in addition to having a therapist, having someone to talk to. And I wish for the future that I hope for the future that it continues on this amazing track that that's on, where we are talking about that, where we are helping people, where it's okay not to be okay, that it's not a bad thing to talk about. And just knowing that you're not alone feeling the way that you are sometimes is just all someone needs.
That's exactly right. I was just going to ask you, like, what advice would you give to other moms that are navigating personal loss? I mean, you had your divorce. I lost my mom. Like, there's a lot of it going through a divorce. I think is very similar because you're kind of grieving the old life that you thought you would have. So I think there's very much the congruency there. But how, like, what advice would you give them for trying to stay on top of it all? And I mean, I think you just put it perfectly, like the fact that we're all saying it's okay not to be okay, right? Like you don't need to be the perfect mom, wife, spouse, whatever you are in your life at all times. Like everything does not need to be perfect. There is no such thing as perfection.
That's what I was going to say is perfect for my kids is me. Perfect for your kids is you. What perfect? There is no perfect. I think the one thing about technology and mental health that is bad is this comparison trap we fall into. And so during the pandemic, there was these amazing people that I followed online that I had to unfollow because they were negatively impacting my mental health. Where in a previous life, they were the people that I would go to make me feel good and inspire me. And I was like, nope, can't do that. They're pulling me down into the abyss and making me feel awful. Not intentionally. It's not them. They weren't making me feel awful, but where I was, like my headspace wasn't in a good place. So just knowing after I unfollowed and took a break, I periodically do 30, 60, 90-day social media detoxes, because the minute that I look at someone's account that used to give me inspiration, and if I look at that account and it makes me feel any sort of way other than good, we know we need a break. And so just knowing like I'm not alone in that, there's so many other people that feel that too. Sometimes that's all like a mom needs, is just to know like that's totally normal. But also knowing that, there's amazing tools out there like Headspace and all these other, apps that you can use, meditation, even listening to certain podcasts can kind of pull you out of the funk. And I think post-COVID world, the fact that everybody, I mean, think about the digital world, it has just exploded even just in 5 years. Everybody went to take their expertise, their knowledge, their community, and now it's all in a space online where you can literally connect and find things. So there is beauty in it. There's also really ugly dark to it too. And I think just, knowing in the mental health world that there are so many resources and that you really aren't alone. There's, plenty of people that can identify with wherever you are in your life. Like that's okay. And making sure that you're surrounding yourself with people, whether it's in person, through a text and email, Instagram, whatever it is, like knowing that you can reach out to someone and just say like, I'm not okay right now, that's really all you need.
Amen. Amen. And anyone's always allowed to reach out to me and say they're not okay. I promise you, there was a time during the day today that I was not okay. So, like, totally an okay thing. It's a minute to minute, hour to hour thing with me. Uh,
Same.
I mean, it's okay, right? Like, we're working moms, all the things. Like this morning, I left my house before I even saw my children, which, like, on the drive to my office, I was like, ooh, I hate that. But at the same time, that means I'll end my day a little bit earlier, see them a little bit earlier. I asked my son last night if he wanted me to pick him up a little early from camp and just have some mommy son time. And, of course, his face lit up and he was so excited. So I'll do that today. So it's the give and the take, the give and the take.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Eryn, you are so amazing. And I'm so glad we had this like open and honest conversation. I think that so many times we avoid conversations that make us feel a certain way, right? Like sometimes we don't like to peel back the onion layers and dig into the real work that we've done. And I feel like between, your kids, you really did put in that work and you really have become a different type of mom this time around. And like, I know that's like silly to say because you are still a mom to the older two as well. But like, I think that your transformation is kind of amazing. And to be able to look at it and see that growth that you really put in the effort there is awesome. Now to bring it all back to Orlando Mom Collective and all the media entrepreneur that you are, you've been a part of that Orlando community for 18 years, I think. What do you think makes Orlando so special for moms and family and, with your media empire and everything? Talk to me a little bit.
So Orlando, yes, we are theme park capital, all those things. There's so much more to Orlando. There's so many cool outdoorsy things to do, so much art, history, food, um, so much for kids. Like it's a really great, like I live in a really great neighborhood. There's so many events and um it's very community centric and community driven. And I think that it's a great place just for families. I think that's why so many people are moving here too, because they realize Orlando isn't just, Disney World. And I grew up in Miami. I lived in Miami for 24 years. It's close enough, but just far enough away where it's different, and the traffic's just a little bit better. And
Sometimes, except for I-4.
it depends where you are in the time of day, like anything, so it's a beautiful area for kids, and there's really is so much to do. And um I do really love being here. We're not far from the beach. We're literally, I'm where I am. I'm halfway to the beach, halfway to Disney. So pick your poison. It's gonna take you 45 minutes either way. So it's kind of like the perfect mix for us. What Orlando is really big. There's so many outlier cities that are so close, and so many really cool eclectic communities, and so many sports opportunities. In Florida, we get sports year round. Other places don't have that luxury. So it's a really cool place to live. And it's changed so much in 18 years too, which is wild to see like the evolution and the growth of the communities.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So looking to the next 18 years, where do you see the Orlando Mom Collective and your role as its leader? I mean, I know you said you want to bring your daughter in, which is so awesome. What do you see down the road?
Well, I see us growing our footprint outside of Orlando. I see us expanding our women in business program throughout different cities in Florida. Right now, we're just kind of right here in Central Florida, but I do see the need in other markets. So definitely some expansion there. So for now, that's really it. We relaunched our podcast, Prosper and Flourish, where we're kind of having conversations like this about entrepreneurship, motherhood. So really just getting, staying at the heart of community, but really getting into making sure that we're continuing to offer, value for moms. Our events are still going strong. So really just kind of expanding on what we already have and giving more moms opportunities, to join our team. So it's really exciting to think about the next, 5 to 10 years, especially if my daughter, comes on board in the capacity that I'm hoping she does. And, she already has kind of been a part of it from day one, but just seeing, the real business side of it, I'm hoping to build a legacy here that will, expand and explode for her also.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that. I love that
Yeah.
so much. Like, I can only imagine how much pride that will give you as well. I mean, like, it's like, well, yes, I did accomplish that. Awesome. Go me.
Or she's my only girl too, so it's kind of unique having, three boys follow her. I'm glad she's the oldest because it just, I don't know, that bond is a little different.
For sure. And I feel like the emphasis on motherhood and stuff, like it's very she gets it. Even that she's young and everything else. No, she sees her mom doing this and being a rock star. And so that's amazing. That truly is having someone like you as a mom, like I'm sure like that she sees it as well. So that's great. Well, Eryn, I just want to say thank you so much for jumping on with me today. I know we've kind of delved in all different topics, and I hope we do this again soon. But you are inspirational, and being able to reflect and being so open with me, I really appreciate it. So thank you so much. Everyone, this is Eryn. She is the head of Orlando Mom Collective as well as Mom Commerce Media. Was that
Mhm.
correct? Yeah, there we go.
That's our overarching media company.
Right, exactly. Eryn, you just want to go in a little bit where everybody can find you online and all of your
Sure.
goodness that's out there.
Thank you. Yeah. So OrlandoMom.com is our primary platform. That's where you can get all the resources, learn about our events, subscribe to our newsletter. Our socials are at Orlando Mom Collective. Mom Commerce Media, we're slowly building out our socials and our, online presence. It's always just kind of just been in the background. So our podcast is Prosper and Flourish. You can find us links, everything's linked through Orlando Mom. So if you just go there, OrlandoMom.com, you'll find everything.
Awesome. And you'll definitely see some snippets of me on the Orlando Mom Collective too. You'll see some One Thrive stuff there. So definitely check it out. Well, Eryn, thank you so much. Eryn Vargo is awesome. We love
Thank
her. We love
you.
Orlando Mom Collective. They are so amazing to us and to me. And so thank you again. And I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Keep thriving, keep momming, and you are not alone. We love you guys. Thank you. Bye.